Hello, hello, how are you? Hello, and welcome to the Queen's Couch where queens collaborate and do not collide. I am excited to have you on tonight. We are launching our Queen's Couch podcast. So, listen, you have me, your host, Tanika Victoria, and I have an amazing guest with me today. But before we do that, I want to thank the amazing sponsors that we have for this show. Our sponsor tonight, we thank you for our sponsor for Phenomenal Hair Replacement and Wellness Center. We thank you for definitely be our host tonight. Phenomenal Hair Placement and Wellness Center helps you with your hair loss needs. So if you have a hair loss issue, Phenomenal Hair Replacement Wellness Center is for you to use a holistic approach. And if you are looking to grow your hair back, if you're a male, females, if you're having hair loss issues, Phenomenal Hair Replacement is the place for you. So thank you to our sponsor on tonight, and I'm excited about you being our sponsor. Thank you so much to the owner, Kathy J. Mack, and the staff at Phenomenal Hair Replacement. But guess what? We're about to get into it. We have our guest here, Sonyetta Cooper, our tonight, Dr. Cooper, as we call her. But listen, I want to tell you about this space. This is a safe space. It's a place for where queens can collaborate and do not collide. It's going to be conversation that's going to be transparent, raw, relevant, all of the things that you talk about with your girlfriends. If you could have a conversation with your 20-year-old self, these are the conversations we are going to have on tonight and going forward. So listen, if you're kind of shacking up with us and you hadn't hit that subscribe bell yet, listen, hit that subscribe bell on the on my channel so you will know when I am going live. We will be going live every 2 weeks, bringing you relevant and amazing topics here right on YouTube. But listen, I'm gonna bring on my guest tonight, Miss Sonyetta Cooper. Hello, Sonyetta. How are you on tonight?
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Dr.
Doctor.
Let
Oh,
me
let
make
me
sure.
make sure.
Do you
Do you
hear
hear
an
an
echo?
echo? A little echo.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see.
Let's see. Yeah, so while she's getting that together, listen, if you would like to hear some amazing topics, you can put that in the comments. We're talking about self awareness in this first episode. In the second episode, we're talking about self awareness in relationships. Listen, it's going to be a hot topic. I have an amazing guest. Dr. Cooper, are you? Let me know when you are ready. But before that, listen, let's listen to some music. I want you to get your tea. I want you to get your coffee. I want you to sit back and relax because listen, this is going to be a conversation that you're going to love to hear. So, as we talk about self awareness, I know everybody's like, self awareness, everybody's talking about it, but what is it? So, tonight we're going to talk about a knowledge of yourself. Do you know yourself? Do you know your character? How you feel, your feelings, what you desire, your passions, how you fit in. All of this is a part of self awareness. And so I'm on this journey and I'm taking you on this journey with me. It's amazing how we don't even know who we are sometimes. We know what people tell us we are. We know the labels and the stereotypes that we have been presented as women, as mothers, as Black women, as educators, just in general. But do you know who you really are? Do you know your character? Do you really know your true values? Or are you going off the values that you learned as a child or in your community or just from circumstances? So, knowing your self awareness, I call it your superpower. It helps you hone in on who you are to accomplish the goals that you need to accomplish. So, Dr. Cooper, are you with us right about now?
I'm
I'm
hoping.
hoping. Yeah, I think I hear you a little bit. Yeah, so introduce yourself to everyone, Dr. Cooper, and then we will get started.
Well, thank
Well, thank
you, first of
you,
all,
first
for
of all,
having
for having
Dr. Tiny
Dr. Tiny
I am Dr. Sonyetta Cooper, also known as the Master Motivator. I am very passionate about helping women, youth, and also men be able to find their purpose, be able to find their voice if they've ever felt left behind. I get excited about doing that because I literally know what it feels like to be in a room full of people and feel as though my voice does not matter. I also know what it feels like to find your voice and then learn that once you find your voice, there's a message in your mess. And so once you learn how to find your voice, you learn how to monetize your message, and then we learn how to make pain pay us back. I am Dr. Cooper. I have a doctorate in Christian studies. I am a mentor. I'm a mom of 3 adult children and the nana of 11 amazing grandchildren. And besides being a life coach, a minister, a mentor, as well as a consultant, I'm just an all around loving country girl that is going to enjoy spending time on the Queen's couch with the Queen herself, Dr. Tynico.
Thank you so much. Listen, we're going to dive in. We're going to dive right in and we're going to get it popping. So, I want to ask you, Dr. Cooper, what does it mean when someone says, do you have an awareness of yourself? How did you find this awareness that you have? How did you feel when you found your voice? When you didn't know what it felt like when you were around people, you didn't even know what to say, you didn't know what your voice meant or how powerful it was. What did that journey look like for you?
Well,
Well,
and
and
having
having
teenagers, when my kids started growing up, there was a time in my life when I was disappointed in myself, and that was when I graduated from high school and I went off to college. And my dream was to be the first of my mom's children. She had 6 children, to graduate from college and come home and be a psychologist and just try to help all of the people in my family because I felt like everybody was crazy. That was my mindset. Got off to college and realized that there was a real world outside of the world that I was raised in little old Florence, South Carolina. That real world had real issues, real problems, real people that I never come in contact with, real mindsets and mentalities that in my own community, I was one thing, but when I was taken outside of my comfort zone, I really didn't understand a lot of things that I was introduced to. And so I fell prey to being a young lady that did not have the voice to be able to speak up for myself. And it started there. So when I came home from college pregnant, it was one of the most disappointing times in my life, mainly because I had a goal, and that was not to get pregnant. Not that I had goals of how not to get pregnant or what to say when those opportunities came up for me to meet people who probably had a little bit more game than I had, or who had words that I had never heard before. And as I started growing up into a young woman, that strong little girl that I thought that I was growing up came in contact with things that I had never been exposed to. So when I came in contact with things and people that I'd never been exposed to, there were things that happened in my life that hurt me, and they hurt me really bad. And during those times that I was hurt, I never learned how to heal. And so hurting girls turn into hurting women. And so this hurting girl turned into a hurting woman. And I grew up learning how to hide things, learning how to keep things to myself, learning how to just hold it in and suck it up, Buttercup. Learning how to, fake it till you make it. And I just started learning that wasn't really working out for me, because deep down on the inside of me, there was a voice that was screaming to come out. So as I raised my children, I started trying to be a parent by how I was parented. And the more that I grew and the more that we kind of grew up together, things just didn't always work out right. There was a failed marriage. There were a couple of failed relationships. And when my children turned into young adults, I sat down with them and I asked them to tell me what I did wrong as a parent, because I wanted to get it right. I wanted to have a turning point in my life. And when they share with me some of the things that happened when they were smaller, and then as they grew up, and what they saw was wrong with me, Miss Perfection, I had to embrace how they felt. And my children, I felt, were the ones that what they thought about me meant more to me than anyone in the world. So when my children were able to tell me their truth, they gave me an opportunity to start changing some things about myself. And that's when I started my journey of finding my voice.
That is amazing. One of the things I love that you said, you learn how to hide. And so many times as women, we learn how to hide ourselves. We learn how to hide because we don't want people to see our flaws. We want people to think that, hey, I'm perfect. There's nothing wrong in my life. There's nothing that's going to happen with this life I've created. I've created this goal, I've created this vision, I've created this plan for my life, but somehow it's not going that way. But I can't let anybody know that I'm unraveling. I can't let anybody know that I need their help. I don't have the self awareness to realize that I need to get help. I can't feel. I don't know what's going on. So I definitely love that you said that. And one of the things that I tell people about my own personal journey is that when you grow up, and I grew up in the South, so when you grow up Southern, you're always told girls are seen and not heard. You're to sit a certain way. You're to speak a certain way. You're to dress a certain way. You're to act a certain way to be known as a lady or a woman. But no one ever teaches you how to manage disappointment. No one helps you to realize when I'm not myself, when I'm not who you said I'm supposed to be. You put me in this box, you put me on this pedestal, you tell me all of these things I'm going to be. But what happens when those things aren't happening? So what will we tell? What are we gonna tell our 20-year-old self? I'll go first. I'll tell my 20-year-old self, that 21-year-old girl that was pregnant, never thought she would be pregnant. I was in college about to graduate, didn't know what to do, where to turn. I would tell myself to get help. I hid my pregnancy from people. I didn't want people to know that I was pregnant. I went back off to college. I mean, sick, struggling. And then I had to come back home and face the music that this girl, this perfect girl, this girl that everyone put on the pedestal, this church girl, this that had this baby. And I didn't know who I was other than what people told me. So I would tell her to get help, be honest, and be open about who you are. And so if you're on a self-discovery journey, the first thing I would tell you is to be true to yourself. I know they have all different types of studies going on, but in my self-awareness journey, I had to be true to myself. And sometimes you don't even know who yourself is. You don't even know the things you like or you dislike because people have told you what you like. They told you how you like to dress. They told you the music you like. They told you the food you would like. They kept you in this box of what they felt would protect you. But then as you're discovering, sometimes the best thing you have to do is unlearn the things that made you who you are because truly they may not be you at the core. So I would tell that girl to guess what? Find some help. Don't hide. Hey, I'm flawed. I made this mistake. And how we're going to move on from this. Because sometimes if I didn't heal, I had to heal. I stayed that 21-year-old for so many years. Even in my 30s, I stayed that 21-year-old girl filled with shame, filled with hurt. I didn't know who I was as a woman and who I am becoming as a woman because there's different ways that you evolve. So what would you tell that girl, Sonyetta? You said you went away to college, you didn't want to be pregnant. What would you tell that girl right now?
If I was
I
able
was able
to
to
to my
to my
self and how our stories are so similar, because I too was pregnant at 20. I got pregnant at 19 and had my daughter at 20. And I would also tell her to get help, truthfully, because when I came home from school, I didn't tell my mother right away. I came home, and the difference with my story was I was hiding it, so I went to stay at a family member's house who needed a live-in babysitter. So that was another place to hide. And when I came home, I had been bleeding. So I thought it was my regular menstrual cycle at first. And then I never stopped. So I probably I was hemorrhaging. Let me change that. And so I probably hemorrhaged for about 3 months and never said anything. And when it got so bad that I was getting weak, I came home and I told my mom that I had been bleeding for 3 months. And she was like, well, we're going to go to the doctor. And the thing, I'm going to back up, because why one of my biggest reasons I was so adamant about not getting pregnant, when I graduated from high school, I had 3 sisters pregnant at the same time. So it was statistics I did not want to be. And so I had a sister that had a baby in November, one was born in December, and one was born in January. And I knew that I needed to get out of that house because I didn't know what they were eating or drinking, but I didn't want any. And so I made a pledge to myself that I was going to be different. So that's where my biggest disappointment came from in me, because that was what I put on me, but I didn't have the tools, right? So at 20, when I was about to give birth, when I found out that this hemorrhaging was because I was threatening a miscarriage, and when I had this baby, she looked like a beautiful porcelain doll. My oldest daughter, she literally looked like a doll baby. Her skin was perfect. She had this straight black hair. Her hair was long and it was on her shoulders. So she literally looked like God had given me an angel. And so I would have told the 20-year-old that was afraid to get help, but I would have told, the 19-year-old to get help. But the 20-year-old, after she had that baby, was this okay? And who you had put in your own head that you were, now that you disappointed yourself in all these standards that you put on yourself because you didn't want to be a statistic, versus taking on being strong, coming from strong women, coming from a strong background. I had my mother, my stepfather. I was in the house with them when I left and I came back. So I had a strong support system, and they were literally supportive. So I wasn't shunned, because my mom was like, well, your sister's got one, now you got one too. And that was my mom's mentality. She was always about family. So I would have told her to not be afraid, to embrace the moment, because I didn't embrace the moment and I tried to hide and mask the pain, I kept trying to find love and ended up having 2 more children, not long after I had the first one. But I would tell her to get help and to be strong. Be strong and link up with the right people. Because my family, they were there for me, but they didn't have what I needed, right? But along the way, what I needed, God always gives us what we need. Along the way, He will send what we need when we don't have it.
That is amazing. It's so amazing how, when you look back at, even in the small things where you think you're all alone, or you think, I don't know what to do, you see the hand of God working in your life, and you see that now your story has so much meaning, and how you can tell other queens and you can tell other women about your journey, and how you can go through your journey gracefully, because there is someone out here today. There's this story that we're telling is someone's reality right now. There's a college girl who's like, hey, I don't want to have a baby. Or even there's a married woman who, her and her husband may not be able to make ends meet, and she's trying to decide, am I going to have this child, or am I going to be, who am I going to talk to, who am I going to go to help? But it just helps you to prepare this new place. So I tell any woman out there, listen, as you're on your journey, get with people who can help you. You're not alone. You're not by yourself. There's people who are here to love you and help you. And I always tell people that you're going to find your tribe. And so that's really so much what this podcast is about. When queens come together and they find their tribe, and they find people that they're able to collaborate with. And so your circle, it dictates so much about your life. When you have the right people in your circle, you can grow, you can thrive, you can be so many different things. And so I am so elated to first of all have all of you that are joining us today on this podcast as we start this podcast. I want to definitely tell everyone to make sure that you are subscribing. So we're going to take a short little break right now, but I want to tell everybody to make sure that you subscribe. You've already clicked that link down at the bottom. Let's subscribe. And in part 2, we're going to talk about things. We're going to talk about your passions. How do you define your passions and your desires? How do you figure out as a woman what is it that makes you tick? What are the things that you desire? What are the things that you really want to go after that you haven't gone after? Because guess what? You're not even aware that you have this passion. And so we're going to talk about some things that you can do to guess what? If you lost your passion, to get it back. If you have a desire, what are your desires? Why are you longing? Why do you feel empty? Sometimes you're feeling empty because you want more. You want to do things. And so, how are you going to fuel that with self awareness? And we're going to talk about that. Listen, make sure you subscribe to the Queen's Couch. And we're going to thank our sponsor once again. Our sponsor for tonight is Phenomenal Hair Replacement and Wellness Center right here in Columbia, South Carolina. Listen, if you are experiencing hair loss, if you are experiencing hair thinning of any type, listen, reach out to Phenomenal Hair Replacement and Wellness Center, and they will help you revive, restore, and renew yourself. Listen, sometimes when your hair isn't right, guess what? You don't feel right. But at Phenomenal Hair Replacement, listen, you're going to be revived, restored, and renewed. So again, thank you so much to our sponsor for tonight, Phenomenal Hair Placement. Thank you so much. So listen, we're going to get into it right now. And so the question on the table, I had some questions in the chat, and some people said, what would you tell your 20-year-old self? Someone said, prepare for the future. You are not alone. And so those are some things that definitely are important when you're thinking about your self-awareness, because it's all about who you are, a knowledge of your own character, your feelings, your motives, and your desires. So let's talk a little bit about desires, Dr. Cooper. What would you say is a motivation for most of the desires that you have? And how did it happen? Because sometimes we hear people saying, I just have this passion to help and save the world. But how did it get there? Because I know, honey, as a 20-year-old, honey, my desires was what I wanted to do. If it wasn't benefiting me, it wasn't making me happy, and I wasn't excited about it, I did not want to do it. So, how do you find out the passion and the desires that you have, and how do you understand the motives of the things that you want in your life?
So as this young mom, one thing that happened in my life that was very pivotal was, as a single mom, I had to get help. And so I started receiving public assistance. And I would go to my appointments for public assistance, and I would be dressed in one of my best church suits, because my mama kept us in church, whether she was there with us or not. She kept us in somebody's church, on somebody's church bus, on somebody's van. Her children were going to get to church because she worked a lot. And I would go in one of my best church suits, and I would have a briefcase, and that briefcase would be empty. And I was going for my food stamp certification. I was going for my welfare check. I was leaving there to go to WIC to get whatever I needed for my children. I was going to receive the services that were available to me, but I wasn't going to show up looking any kind of way. And I had a caseworker that was one of the people that God led in my path during this time. And it was a young man, and we always had a running joke, because when I'd walk in, he would wait to see what I was wearing. I only had 3 suits, so I would switch it up where it would always look like something else or a different outfit. So that's where my passion for fashion came from, with my 3 suits that I had to switch up. And he would say, "You don't look like you should be coming here for services. You look like you should work here." And I would tell him, "It's because I'm dressed for the part that I want, not for the position that I'm in." And during that time, there were programs that were being made, for young women or people on the system, or ways of trying to bring about change. And there was a program in 1997 called the Welfare to Work program. And when it came to Florence, South Carolina, my caseworker asked me, would I like to take the class? And I was like, if I take the class, what is it going to do for me? Are there more resources? Is it going to help me get to a better place? Is it going to help me go to college? And he said, you'll be the first to graduate in Florence, and it's going to help you to get a good job. I said, sign me up. And when he signed me up for that program, I was the first person in my city to receive the Walker E. Solomon Welfare to Work certification. From that class, I was then able to work under a grant program with the Medicaid department. So that's where my why started. I was no longer going to be on the system. I was now going to be working for the system. And why that was so important to me, I remember going to appointments sometime and everybody wasn't as nice as my caseworker was, because when you have to receive services, or when you're down, or when you're going through trials in your life, people kind of look at you different. No matter how people looked at me, I've always been an atmosphere shifter. So whether I was the brokest person in the room or the one that had the most wealth, my attitude and who I was didn't change, because I've always had a love for people. But now I was going to become an advocate. Being an advocate for me means that I get to stand in the gap for those who don't have a voice, because I didn't mind talking. I was one of those children that used to have talked too much on their paperwork. And so now I was going to be able to speak up for other people, because now I was sitting on the other side of the desk. So now I was getting some power. Now I get to help young women when they come in looking like me, to let them know, don't worry about it. We're going to get you exactly what you need. But because I've already gone through it, I know what it is that you need to do to get the real help that you need, because I know where the resources are. So my passion for helping people to find their voice was because at one point I didn't have a voice. And then things started shifting and changing, and I became the voice. And then I started realizing that my passion and desires come from wanting to be who I needed when I was that 15-year-old, that 17-year-old, that 20-year-old, that person that was 25. My passions come from the desires that I have to see people grow and to see people do better. But my willpower comes from the things that I've experienced myself. So no matter how many degrees, accolades, certifications that I receive, that one means the most to me, because that's when my life changed.
That is absolutely amazing. And some great takeaways that I took from what you said. One, I'm preparing for where I'm going and not where I am. And then number two, that you're standing in the gap for those women who don't know how to speak for themselves, who don't know how to advocate for themselves. And so that is a great testament of what we're here all as women to do. We're here advocates for each other. We're here to be able to support, collaborate, help women reach their goals and their everything that they want to achieve. And so as I sit here, I'm sitting here thinking about what is it? I love young women. I was a very young woman who um, grew up always being the favorite or on the pedestal, honestly. And the thing about it is, what was so funny about my story is growing up without your mother was a difficult thing. So my mother was murdered when on Valentine's Day when I was 11. She left on Valentine's Day and she never came back. And so when you lose your mother at a young age, it changes you in ways that you cannot imagine. And so as I sit and I think about that, I think about all the girls who their mother may not be dead, but their mother weren't there to mother them. Those girls who need to be mothered, those girls who need someone, a trusted adult to talk to, but you don't know who to talk to. You have questions, but there's no one to talk to. And so when I think about those girls, when I think about those young women, when I think about those, especially church girls, because I've always been a church girl. And so when I think about that, I think about sometimes you don't know what to say. It's always we're gonna pray about it. And don't but I'm an intercessor, I believe in prayer. But sometimes you need to talk about it. You need to get some counseling about it. You need to really get the things that you need. And so those girls that are going through life trying to find themselves, trying to figure out who they are, what they like, um, hoping that the same thing that happened to their mothers won't happen to them. And for a long period in my life, I thought I would die young. I literally thought I would die young. It almost would make me have anxiety. I mean, whenever it would come around the time for um my mother's the anniversary of her death, I would just feel like, okay, it's gonna happen to me. I'm gonna die. I just didn't even focus on living because that's how much I did not want to repeat the same cycles. But I wasn't living out what I needed to live out because I didn't know how to do that. And so once I was able to start grieving and start getting counseling, I began to know who I was and live that out. And so I'm definitely passionate about every woman who doesn't know who she is, who haven't been mothered, because you can be 30 years old, 40 years old, and still not mothered. And when you're not mothered, you have a hardness about you. You have a hardness about you because life makes you hard. And so I'm living in my soft girl era. And you have defense mechanisms. Your attitude and your persona, it becomes your defense mechanism. You live in that to keep from being hurt because you don't want to be self-aware of your true feelings, that you're still that little girl, or you're still that 12-year-old or that 15-year-old or that 14-year-old. You don't want to feel, you don't want to be aware of your feelings. So you get in this shell and you get in this mask, and it causes you to spiral and spiral. But I just feel that I have a mandate from God that women will not live their lives being hard, being bitter. I've been bitter before. Let me tell you, bitterness is not, it's just horrible. Everything around you is just not a great place. And so when you learn how, when you have someone to help you and say, you know what, that's not who you are. Let me tell you who you are. And so just learning who I was as a woman, learning how to not only feel love, but give love to others and let people in your space and let people in your life. Because sometimes when you don't do that, you wake up and you realize you live your life in a shell trying to protect yourself from all the things that you thought other people would be doing to you, but you did them all to yourself because you didn't get the help you needed, because you didn't know how. But I'm here to tell you, if you are living in a shell, you don't know what to do, the best thing you can do is definitely get some help. Get some counseling. Find you someone you can talk to. It might be a pastor. Everyone doesn't go to therapy. You might just need some spiritual counseling. You just might need a good girlfriend you can talk to. You might need just someone to help you, lead you, to mother you, to guide you to the places that you need to go so that you can be self-aware, that you're able to feel, you know what your true motives are, because sometimes your circumstances become your motivation. Not to be in the same place again, not to be in the same stuck here again. So then you start, guess what? Your motives is to not be hurt. Or your motives and your desires is to be what everyone said I wouldn't be. But guess what? Sometimes you get to the place and you accomplish all the things you wanted to accomplish, and you're still not happy because you didn't have the right motives. I've accomplished things, and I'm telling you, I've graduated, I've received awards, and felt so empty because it wasn't my right motives to get those things. I got them because I wanted to show somebody. I wanted to prove my point. You know, women have egos. Y'all might be mad at me, but women, we got stronger egos than men. Because when we determine we're going to do something, we're going to do it to the end. But sometimes that end can hurt us. So I'm just passionate about people becoming aware of who they are and really saying who you are. Hey, I don't think I don't like that. I know I said I liked this all these years, 20, 30 years ago. I said I liked it. When I was in my 20s, I liked it. But guess what? I don't like it. I became aware of who I am, and I realized the things I like were were motivated by hurt and pain, not by passion and purpose and what God has called you to do. So when I think about that, I think that we on this platform, every guest that I have, every guest that comes on will share how they have been able to collaborate with another person to help them to get where they need to be. And so I'm excited about Dr. Sanyetta being on here tonight. I'm excited about all of you that tuned in tonight for this launch, because this has been a dream of mine for a long time. And I would just say, oh, I don't want to do it. But this time, it's time. My motto for 2024 is I am going to dream, guess what? Without limits. And the only limits I have are the ones in my mind. So if you've got a dream, I want you to dream without fear. And don't put any limits on yourself. The limits that you have are all the limits you place on yourself. I mean, if you are a woman of God, I'm a woman of faith, guess what? There are so many things that God has for you. There are so many amazing things that you can accomplish in this world. And I want to tell you, don't let anything limit you. Don't let your family limit you. Don't even let a situation limit you. Don't even let a circumstance limit you, because guess what? At the end of the day, there's no limits that anybody can put on you. Yes, I grew up without a mother. Yes, I've had tremendous things to happen in my life, from crazy relationships to hurt, betrayal. But guess what? Those things cannot define where you're going. Though you can't let those things define you. And I'm definitely going to tell you, it does hurt. But healing is the best thing you can do for yourself. Now, is healing easy? No, it's not. You're going to have to face some things. You're going to have to find out how you're going to respond when you're triggered. You're going to have to find out, you're going to have to face some traumas. But guess what? When you begin to heal, you will start to become self aware. You'll have a knowledge of who you really are as a woman, what you have, and you'll be able to feel. It's okay to feel. It's okay to feel. I know they told you that we're strong women. I'm not strong anymore. I've given up. I have divorced the strong Black woman. I am docile. I am soft. I want to be taken care of. I'm soft, and that's my. I've divorced her. I have divorced the strong Black woman. I have divorced her. I am not her. I want to be taken care of. I have divorced the strong Black woman, and I have, because when you really read and think about her, she lived a life of what everybody thought she was supposed to do. She was supposed to be strong. She was supposed to suffer at night. She was supposed to cry and not let her children see her and be miserable and die, never being healed, never accomplishing the things she wanted to accomplish. I don't want that life. So we divorced. I divorced her in the natural, and I divorced her in the spirit. We are no longer friends. I am that carefree 5, 6, 7 year old that when you were 5 and 6 and you were carefree, you were fearless, you would wear whatever you wanted to wear. You didn't care what nobody said about you. You remember those days you had your crown on, you might have had on some plastic heels, you might have had on pink to the top, blue to the bottom, glitter, glam, whatever. And you didn't care what anybody thought about you. And guess what? That's what I want you to take away from here. When you become self aware of who you are, I want you to dream again. I want you to dream without fear. I know something may have happened in your life that you may be like, you know what? I don't know if I can dream there again. Something may have been a promise you've been waiting on for a long time. You've been really trying to get there. I want you to dream again. Be that happy, spontaneous, bubbly, cheerful woman that you are, that brings light to everywhere you go, and you are meant to make a difference. And so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Sanyetta. We are almost about to close our podcast for tonight about being self aware. But I want to tell you, listen, make sure you click that like and subscribe. I want to thank you all for being a part of us tonight. I want to thank my sponsors. I want to thank everyone who pushed me to keep going when I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. I don't know. I don't know. But I thank each and every one of you. I thank you, Dr. Cooper, for being my guest. You have such a powerful testimony. This is my sister. Listen to me from another mister. Listen to me. And it is amazing how we met. We met through social media. You probably would not think that we have not been friends for 30 years. But we have, this is my sister, this is my friend. And I tell you, for some major parts in my life, for some dark parts in my life, me and Dr. Cooper have been walking. We are destiny partners. We are covenant sisters. And so I am so honored and elated that you would be my first guest. And so I'm excited about it. I love you so much. And so I want to turn it over to you. If you can say something for to our guests tonight as we get ready to close for guess what? Episode 1, self awareness. And then I'm going to tell you who's going to be my guest for episode 2. Oh my goodness. We're going to chop it up. Dr. Cooper.
First of all, Dr. Tainiko, I want to thank you for allowing me to be your first guest. I do not take that lightly. When you are launching something, when you are giving birth to something, it's very important who you allow to take part in the birthing process. It's very important who you allow to be in the birthing room. It's very important who you allow to be around you, even when you are carrying your vision. And we've, in the short amount of time that we've known each other, we've been through a lot, which means that God knew what we needed. And so even talking about myself as a young woman, as a young mom, not having all the answers, but knowing that strategically along the way of my life, God was leading people into my path to turn me into the right direction. And what he's doing now is he's bringing it all back full circle. I ran into some ladies just last week who were a part of that time in my life when I was that young mom on the system. And one of them is a lady that when I lived in the projects, she worked in the office, in the main office, and she got a grant called Chance to Dance. And she paid for my daughters along with other little girls. And these are my daughters that are in their 30s. But she paid through this grant for them to be able to dance at the Florence Ballet Academy. Now, I'm not talking about the dance school or the little groups that you see in the parade. This was the Florence Ballet Academy, which at one time Black women or children were not even allowed to grace those doors. So she received a grant for my daughters to dance tap, jazz, ballet. And then there was another program where they danced the Bushwa, which was African dance. These were things that my children were able to be exposed to that I didn't have access to. And what God will do is when you don't have access, He will send people in your life to help you to gain the access that you need. So when you're going through something, don't think that it's the end. Wherever you are right now, please do not think that this is the end. Understand and know that God has a plan. You just don't understand, but He already knows exactly what's going to happen. But what He wants to know is if He can trust us. The Bible says that when you're faithful over the little, He'll make you ruler over much. But if you steady complaining in your little, you're never going to make it to the much. Children of Israel, you came out of bondage and then you were in the wilderness and you were no longer slaves, but you complained the whole time and you never got a chance to reach the promised land. But the descendants of the complainers did. So will you be the one that reach it, or will it be your descendants? So just stop complaining. Embrace where you are. When we were young, if we had known to embrace where we were, we probably wouldn't be sitting here now. Although we'd have a conversation with our 20-year-old self, God knew exactly what we needed when we needed it so that we could be here to help a sister out. So my passion and my desires come from all the things that I've been through in my life. And we didn't even scratch the surface, but it's okay because the books are on the way. It's okay. More podcasts are on the way. It's okay because our pain that we went through, our purpose of building safe spaces for women is to make sure that you don't have to go through it, sis. We've been through the era where the mean girls try to tear us down. So we're going to tell you what that looks like so you don't have to. And that's why we build safe spaces like Gold Friends. So you can fire your girlfriends and get you some gold friends. The ones who are going to walk with you, the ones who are going to talk with you, the ones who are going to tell you when you're right and also tell you when you're wrong. The ones that when you're going through us just send a cash app and you have no idea that the Lord had you on His mind. But a gold friend is going to look out for you even when you don't even realize it. And He'll send men too, because we don't want to just seem like, we're just women empowerment and there's no men. No, God literally has men in our life that are being ravens in this season. For some of us, like a single woman, ravens in this season who are literally feeding you where you were in the desert. That's what our Father will do. So if I could leave you with anything else, I'm telling you to embrace where you are. Do not despise small beginnings and don't call yourself broke. You're in between blessings. And whatever is happening in your life right now is only setting you up for your next. And if you are a mother and you have children, if you are a father and you have children and there are some things that you didn't get right, be the bigger person. Go and apologize. I'm talking about children because God honors family, but the enemy has a plan, and that's to tear families apart, to tear destiny partners apart. So stop being offended. Get that thing right because we need each other to survive. Dr. Tynico, I appreciate you. I appreciate you for being my sister, for being my friend, and for knowing exactly what I need when I need it. And I thank you for birthing this out because this platform is going to open the door for others to be able to tell their story. And I just pray that God will bless you abundantly in ways that you never even imagined because you stepped out on faith.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cooper. I'm excited. Thank you so much to everyone who is rocking with us for this hour. And listen, you have been on the Queen's Couch podcast. This is the place where queens collaborate and do not collide. And listen, join me on February the 8th. That's our next episode where we talk about self awareness in relationships. Our guest speaker for that time will be Heather Singleton. I am so elated to have this awesome philanthropist, community activist, brand strategist, and all around amazing woman to talk about self awareness in relationships. And so, listen, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Listen, so you can make sure you know when the Queen's Couch is going live. Thank you so much. And I look forward to having amazing and wonderful conversations in this space that we're cultivating. And it's not only for women, I'm going to have some cool men on this podcast as well, because guess what? We can't do nothing without our brothers. And I want you to know that I love my black men. Yes, I'm all about women empowerment, but guess what? There is some places and spaces that you can only get when you have the love of a father or the love of a man in your life. He opens doors and causes you sometimes to soar in places where you've never even soared before. So if that strong man in your life, it might be your brother, it might be your husband, it might be your dad, it might be one of your close friends that pushes you in the back to let you know that you can be the strong woman you were destined to be. So listen, it's not all going to be about the queens, but guess what? It's going to be about everyone who collaborates to make you the queen, to keep your crown going the way it should be. So listen, listen, if your crown was a little shifted tonight, I hope that it is adjusted, that you are holding your head high, that you felt empowered, you felt ignited, and you're able to go out and conquer the world. So thank you so much. Thank you again to our sponsor, Phenomenal Hair Replacement. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, because guess what? It takes a lot to put on a podcast, but guess what? I thank you so much for being our sponsor for tonight. And guess what? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much. You have been on the Queen's Couch, and enjoy yourself, giving some of your night back. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. And remember, this is the place where queens collaborate. We do not collide. I love you, Queen. Good night.